right at the beginning. Jai Saparika Sisi Guru Goranga Radha Sham Sundar Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Rupanuga Guru Bhagya Ki Jai. Sri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So welcome everyone to our regular Sunday afternoon talk, which we are starting a little early today, as we have a very special guest with us. We have Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
And he has a Zoom meeting with the devotees in Latvia and other places at 1 o'clock. So for that reason, we've decided to start the talk a little earlier today. Those of you who tune in online, I hope that you will have got an alert to say that we've gone online, and those of you who watch it later on a recording, then there's no problem for you. Okay, so without further ado, Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj will give us some insight into Guru Maharaj's
Hare
talk
Krishna.
today. Jai.
All right, so dear devotees, Dandavat Pranam, dear friends, listeners, welcome. So I've been asked to speak on Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, Volume 1, and I'm very happy to do so. Means to read and see what happens while we read. So, chapter 7, and I believe this is the routine reading. Let's read chapter 7. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
With some sportsmen, young devotees have just arrived from some university somewhere, by the looks of the jacket. All right. So, dear devotees and friends, Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, Volume 1, Ki Jai, and Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, the author of this book, Ki Jai, and of course his inseparable servitor, Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. So, the title of this chapter is The Grand Victory of Love. And I hope you've noticed that this is the theme of Guru Maharaj and Gurudev and of everything they're telling us. It's about beauty, sweetness, love, charm, all these things. This is Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness as given to us by our sweet masters. All right. So, as we do, we're going to ask everybody to remember something. And before having prasadam, let's see what we remember. The more we remember, the more prasadam we can have. Okay. Devashis, who has a very good memory. He would win all of his school memory contests. I heard it and I thought, okay, yes, I can understand that. All right, so dear devotees, here we are. Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion. The grand victory of love. Devotion is above all. There. We can memorize that, and we can also make a poster of that. Sharanagati, surrender, is the highest property of everyone. Also. Surrender to Him, capital H, and He may graciously make His name known to us, and we will be able to know Him. And by the way, we just sang Oh Hey Hari Nama, this one of the verses of Bhaktivinoda Thakur glorifying the holy name of the Lord. And we just sang that song, and we read the translation also. And there, saying something of the glories of the name of the Lord. Okay. So surrender to Him, and He may graciously make His name known to us, and we will be able to know him. In the Upanishads it is said, Yam evaisa vrinnute tena labhyas, that whoever he chooses to make himself known to can know him. Otherwise, no one can. Acha. Otherwise, no one can know him against his will. He has reserved all the right of not being exposed to the senses of anyone and everyone. He is so high, he can do that. If he does not wish to make himself known, no one can know him. Whenever he wishes to make himself known to someone, they can know him. This is his position. On the order of his Gurudev, Devashis Narad, the scripture Srimad Bhagavatam was given by Vedavyas as the conclusion of his teachings. After giving the Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, etc., the last gift of Vedavyas in the world of scriptures was Srimad Bhagavatam. And the message of the Bhagavatam is that beauty is above all, not knowledge or justice. Mercy is above justice. Affection, love, beauty, charm, harmony, these are above all. And this absolute conception of the ultimate reality is in the Krishna conception. Beauty is above knowledge and power. So beauty is above knowledge and power. Knowledge is above power. And above knowledge is beauty, charm, love. That is the supreme. Srimad Bhagavatam has declared Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. The Krishna conception of Godhead is the most original conception of the Absolute. This is the prime declaration of the Bhagavatam, that the Lord as beauty is above all. What is the prime declaration of Srimad Bhagavatam?
Beauty is
that the Lord as
Everything is
beauty
above.
is above all. And below him, the beautiful Lord, below him is awe, reverence, power, etc. And Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya Dev pointed out, go to the beautiful, reality the beautiful. He is your highest attainment. Hanker neither for power nor knowledge, but hanker for service of the beautiful, and thereby you will be taken in and given entrance into the land of the beautiful. This is the highest realization. Don't waste your energy by engaging yourself in any other pursuits, but go straight, jnana shunya bhakti. By the help of sadhu sangha, take the name of the Lord and try to march straight onwards to the Krishna conception of Godhead. Krishna consciousness is our highest achievement, and this is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and by Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended, don't waste your energy for anything else. Utilize your energy for the Krishna conception of Godhead. So, we try to make our progress in this line And at the same time, we also ask our friends to try to embrace this life. The fulfillment of life for every particle of existence of this world can be found here. March towards universal good. Wherever and whoever you are, it does not matter. Take your course towards Krishna consciousness. This is the highest fulfillment of the life for everyone. You are only to turn your face towards Him and march. And the sweet absolute Sri Krishna will welcome you. This is the campaign of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. And I can say this, we lived with Guru Maharaj, we lived with Gurudev for so many sweet years in their sweet association, their affection, their caring glance. And this is the subject matter of every day of the week, every week of the year, every week of the month, every month of the year. This is what we were hearing from them always, and always in the theme of humility, tolerance, giving honor, not wanting honor for oneself. And this life that we have led with them, we pray to keep that with us, but we also pray that others can understand and capture that sweetness. And it's so easy to go off on a tangent from Krishna consciousness of what's been given by our masters and see many things of the structure or the hierarchy or many things. And I was reflecting this about our sister missions, about what Srila Prabhupada gave and now what may be the mood in the temples. And there must be some structure, no doubt. But the structure must be there, as Guru Maharaj points out, to cultivate this hankering for sweetness, beauty, charm, etc. And so our family, luckily, is a small family. We are quite easy to approach to each other and be in a small family. And this way, when we've got less volume, we have less necessity of like the structures and the rule A, B, and voting this, that, and the other. But that doesn't mean that just everything goes out of the door that Gurudev and Guru Maharaj have given. And they have given sweetness and beauty, charm, all these things. And we had many years of that sweet shelter of Gurudev. And here in Green Street, we feel also Gurudev's presence. I was just in this room upstairs where Gurudev would look at Ken's Cafe, watch the street outside very famously. And the building is just like absorbed. It has absorbed, and now it exudes. It has absorbed Gurudev, and now it exudes Gurudev. And I don't think it will stop exuding, because it's a spiritual substance. It's not that when fragrance, if you put some fragrance somewhere, that fragrance, it will gradually lose its fragranceness. But spiritual things are not like that. And building the house, then we feel, this is full of Gurudev's mood. And Gurudev has been sitting right here. He's been giving class to the devotees. And we must always try to sit beside him and hear how he's giving our goal of life, how he's giving our practices. And Gurudev said at one time after some gathering of devotees, and one of our senior devotees said, Gurudev, have you got any advice for us? And Gurudev said, have affectionate dealings with each other. Be affectionate, have affectionate dealings with each other. And this was Gurudev, this was Guru Maharaj, always affectionate. And this book is Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, but we have the book by Gurudev also, the Affectionate Guidance. All of this, affection and affection. And this title, by the way, Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, came from Srila Gurudev. he considered. And he felt sermons is a nice word because it is talks but with religious content. And some of us who sat through sermons in our young age and didn't understand anything, and really I don't think the priest understood very much either, but he was going through some formality of talking. So for some of us, sermon may sound a bit too formal, but Gurudev liked the word sermon, and he played with words, played with expressions to try to say what the book should be. But it is Guru Maharaj, and he is talking to devotees about spiritual life. And Gurudev liked sermons, yes, giving sermons. This is real sermon, not the idea maybe that just shouting something out from a pulpit or from a high stage or something like that. But this is real sermon, the flow of heart transmission to try to get devotees to be good devotees.
Did he leave his body in London or in India?
No, Srila Sridhar Maharaj left they both left in India. Yeah, in Bengal.
Okay.
And their bodies, they're buried in our central mat, the home of our heart.
Where about India?
Sri Chaitanya Saraswat mat in West Bengal.
Oh, it's not that.
Navadip.
Navadip.
And everyone has heard of Mayapur, basically, which
Yeah.
the center of Navadip. And our temple is on one of the 8 petals. Our temple is on Kolla Deep. And it is understood to be a very merciful place of Navadip, where Gauranga, the most generous manifestation of the Lord, then he had his most generous pastimes there. And that's where Srila Guru Maharaj established the temple. So this is Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And on his right, Srila Govinda Maharaj. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj established the temple actually in 1941, 1942, that time, which is very simple. And Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, joined him in 1947, and then developed not only the temple that we see, the buildings, but developed the distribution of the treasure of Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So West Bengal, banks of the Ganges, 125 kilometers north of Calcutta, something like that.
And they came into the West in the 80s? I mean, this tradition?
This tradition came with Srila Prabhupada, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in the second part of the 60s.
Oh, okay.
And our mission, well, actually came to the West before our charges came to the West, because the awareness of Srila Sridhar Maharaj and in due course Srila Govinda Maharaj came from the Srila Prabhupada, who brought his senior devotees to Guru Maharaj in the 80s. In the 70s, he brought himself devotees in the 70s to Guru Maharaj. But really, after his disappearance, it was in the beginning of the 80s that the world got to extensively hear the talks of the sermons, the religious talks of Srila Guru Maharaj and his guidance. And then from 83, 84, 85, the temple started to manifest. And in London, Devashis, who knows the history very well, but probably 83, is it?
83, yeah. I mean, we were here from 82, but actually making something in the name of Guru Maharaj from 1983.
So now, 1983, today, 2023, 40 years. And then Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, he came out around the world and came to London, and that first world tour was 1992. And this is 4 years after Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj had disappeared from the world. He passed away in August 1988. And then when Srila Gurudev started coming around the world, then the devotees continually inviting him to come. And so he actually went on 24 world tours by his calculation. 24 world tours, and visited many countries, and visited London 24 times too, I heard.
Yeah,
Not 24 times 2 equals 48. 24 times also Gurudev came to London while coming specifically to London, and while coming to London en route to other places. So, as I say, this house is a very sweet house. And I mentioned maybe once before that in Rome, one day, Dhananjaya Prabhu, a devotee in Rome, he's showing me around Rome, and he's born in Rome, so he knows Rome. So we're doing the lazy way in the car, and this is this. We walked also. We did walk some part, but it was very hot that time. And he showed me there was a queue of people to go to one place, and he said, "Oh, these people, they are queuing to go to where Saint Francis stayed for one night or maybe 2 nights when he came to wait to have the audience of the Pope." But Saint Francis came there for 1 night or 2 nights. And then people queue there to, oh, Saint Francis, and take the dust like that. But yet here Gurudev came 24 times, and not just as a person coming through, or people come and have his darshan, take his photo, take some dust, but to distribute this kind of harikatha, this standard of talks about the Lord, and to distribute the connection with Guru Maharaj and with the current which is coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is distributing Radha and Krishna. So, very beautiful things when we sit back, and in one sense we can say, we're lucky that there aren't queues of people down the street to come and give darshan, otherwise it'll be very difficult to come in the door. And we sometimes think about this of some of the pilgrimage places. When we're in Vrindavan, there are some very popular pilgrimage places where it's jammed, there are queues, to go inside. But some of the sweetest, the confidential places, even on the busiest day, praise be unto the Lord, on the busiest day we're able to go to those places, and they're peaceful. Only like the devotees know about these places, and it's not on the like Hindu like tourist map or Hindu pilgrimage map. So here we have Green Street, and here we have not only Green Street, we have London, because the attention of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, attention of Srila Guru Maharaj, attention of Srila Prabhupada, attention of Srila Govinda Maharaj, always London. London, we must have some representation in London. London still holds prominence in the world. It may not be the most prominent city in many ways, but still London is London. And whether it's the most prominent city, or, as the Americans will tell us, New York, and the Californians will tell us Los Angeles, and the Japanese will tell us Tokyo or something like that. Everyone's going to say their city is like important. But it's important for us in particular because of the desire of Srila Saraswati Thakur, Guru Maharaj, Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, specifically here. So whatever you catch of understanding, you should go out and tell everybody.
Explode.
Tell everybody.
Everybody.
Yes. Then don't have to tell them 466 Green Street is a great place, so you're going to have to queue to go in. But you can tell them about Goloka Vrindavan is a great place, and you don't have to queue to go in.
No.
But if you listen to the guidance of Gurudev and Guru Maharaj, then you will be becoming fit to receive their mercy, becoming a suitable instrument to receive the mercy coming from above, coming from Mahaprabhu, coming through our parampara. Anyway, it's, We didn't choose to read these pages of this book. It means you've been reading it week by week, but we've come to this. And it's not a coincidence. These pages are full of descriptions of Krishna consciousness, means love and beauty, charm, and other. Here we haven't heard the word just now about harmonizing, but always this theme of harmonizing with the environment, seeing everything as favorable in the Lord's hand. Always the theme of honoring others and not wanting honor for oneself, of humility, of tolerance, not criticizing anyone. And Gurudev says directly how Bhagavad Gita says the mind can be your worst enemy and it can be your best friend. He says it's your worst enemy when you criticize others, and it's your best friend when you can praise others, see the good in others, and criticize oneself. Look at one's own part. So many things. And this is all to help us to be a good receiver for the mercy from above. And we were reading another quote earlier today, and there the land of Goloka Vrindavan is the land of no complaint. If we want to complain, you've got what's Feltham? Is it? No, Feltham is the other side. What's the area here?
Newham.
Newham. Okay, if you want to live in the land of complaint, you can live in Newham or Feltham or anywhere of this world, where everyone's complaining about everyone, and the newspapers complaining about everyone, and TV's complaining about everyone, looking at the fault and everything. This world is for that, but it's unhappy. But we need to get it out of our system and join a land where there's no complaint and only appreciation. So all of these things are telling us about Krishna consciousness. Take your course toward Krishna consciousness. This is the highest fulfillment of the life for everyone. You are only to turn your face towards Him and march, and the sweet Absolute, Sri Krishna, will welcome you. This is the campaign of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. What do you think, Ramsundar Prabhu? Good campaign? Best. All right, and of course, Srila Guru Maharaj, here we're reading from him, doesn't stop here, but I need to stop here because now it's just coming up to 5 to 1 and at 1 o'clock. We have a program with devotees, and at 1:45 today there is a festival, Veda Life Festival in Kiev, and normally thousands of devotees attend. Maybe today will be hundreds, and at that festival we are also participating, so many people are there and we are booked. I did negotiate with them for a time which I thought wouldn't interrupt here, and it's not interrupting. I've had some opportunity to say a few words, to read a few things, and Devashis Prabhu will continue today's program here. So Jai Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak, Sridhar Goswami Maharaj ki
Jai.
Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, Volume 1, ki
Jai.
Jai. And Jai Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, inseparable servitor of Srila Guru Maharaj ki
Jai. Jai.
And Jai Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Vaga ki
Jai.
Nam Sankirtan ki
Jai.
Nitai Gaura Premanandi
Hari Hari Bol. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. So I'll be just here upstairs, if I can undo my legs from this chair. I sat on the chair because everyone was sitting on the chair. And we were listening to Guru Maharaj before, by the way. Also, Guru Maharaj, like so clear and sweet, when we can hear his voice, it also helps us understand like his expressive way and how he's expressing. Okay? Sorry for sitting behind me because I turned. Normally I see everyone. Excuse me. I mean, SG. Yeah. Oh, I better not pull down all the high-tech, electrical, expensive equipment that's floating around.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Dandava.
Jai. So, very fortunate to hear a little from Srila Madhusudan Maharaj, who everyone knows from so long serving Srila Gurudev and Srila Guru Maharaj, 30 years living in India as their confidential servant, secretary of both Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Gurudev, and as Mahananda Prabhu, and now Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj. Srila Govinda Maharaj said, "He will be the leader of all of the Western devotees, and no one may cross him." We should know, you should all know that he is my Guru Maharaj's personal secretary and my dear friend. So it's always very good to have his spiritual association. So there's not much left of this chapter, so I'll just read that and then we can read the next chapter. But as we started the program a little early, we can also finish a little earlier today. Maybe around 2 o'clock, I think, is probably good, Srila Rupa Goswami described Krishna in a scientific way. Akila Rasamrita Murti. Our hearts are hankering for satisfaction and happiness of different types, but he is the emporium of all such rasas, flavors of ecstasy. All types of rasa are in Krishna, and he is the personification of them all. So everyone can find his corresponding place in him alone, and nowhere else. He is Krishna, Akila Rasamrita Murti. All our necessary satisfaction is personified in him. So only he can say, "Give up everything and come to me, and you won't have to repent. You will find your highest satisfaction." No one else has ever said such a thing in any place. Only Krishna has said this, and Mahaprabhu pointed it out. Go directly that side, and don't go any other way, but march straight for Krishna conception. That is your home. The Guru Maharaj has said that before, especially in Bhagavad Gita. There we find, Krishna, Guru Maharaj says, Krishna shamelessly pleading for himself, telling us in a straightforward way, that I am everything. I am the cause of everything. Everything is in me and nothing is in me. And although I am the omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent Lord, although all of those things are true, but I am friendly to you all. And this is a very essential point for us to understand, that we're not approaching some kind of impersonal conception of God, but rather he is the supreme friend, the supreme well-wisher, and the personification of everything that is good, everything that is beautiful, everything that is sweet. And he has not even one iota, not even one drop of malice in his nature. Only goodness, only compassion, he is not out to, punish anyone or give pain or difficulty to anyone, but only to give himself his sweetness, his kindness, his beauty, his love. And that is our greatest fortune. I am everything, but I am also your friend. This is a wonderful thing, that Krishna is come to mingle with us as if he were one of us. But he is always the omniscient Lord, but he has our best prospect in his sight. He is only thinking for that. He has not left us. He's not abandoned us in this material world, although we may be fit for that, to be abandoned as we have chosen a life without him. But he has not done that. He himself comes to remind us and save us, and not only himself, but his devotees also coming for that, to give us a new prospect, a possibility of a life of love with him for eternity. Not just to go round on the wheel of samsara again and again, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, but some way of finding eternal satisfaction, our greatest necessity. We will find a corresponding satisfaction element within him. The computer?
Something that had happened in Facebook. Zoom.
We have a laptop here. Do you have the password?
You sure it's it's that he wants, not the Wi-Fi?
No, it's the password of the
Computer.
The desktop.
All right, I'll write it down because
Thank you.
not everyone needs to know that. If it means the computer in the front room, that's it. So chapter 8, the brightest sun. I can't see very well. Parivadatu jano jata tatayam nanu mukaro na vayam vicharayamaha hari rasa mandira madati mata bhuvi vihutama natama nirvishamaha. The gossipers may slander us, but we shall not heed them. Completely intoxicated by drinking the wine of the ecstasy of Sri Hari's service, we shall dance and roll on the ground and faint. If I'm not mistaken, this verse is composed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was the greatest, at the time of Mahaprabhu, he was the greatest Pandit of India. And he was a follower of the school of Shankaracharya. But after coming in connection with Mahaprabhu, he became fully converted to the cause of Mahaprabhu, of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And now he is composing this verse. The gossipers may slander us, but we shall not heed them. Completely intoxicated by drinking the wine of the ecstasy of Sri Hari's service, we shall dance and roll on the ground and faint. Oh. There is a class that think they can take intoxication and chant and dance and roll around on the ground, imitating the divine intoxication mentioned in this verse written by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. They think they can purchase divine ecstasy very cheaply with the help of intoxication, but their whole attempt is deception. Not to mention them, even the yogic attempt is inferior. Jamadi bir jogo patai, kama loba hato muhu, mukunda sevaya jadvat, tatadatma na samjati. The agitated mind, repeatedly taken capture by its enemy in the form of depravity, rooted in lust and greed, is directly mastered by serving the Supreme Lord Mukunda. It can never be likewise checked or pacified by practicing the eightfold yogic discipline, which is generally based on sensual and mental repression, jama, nijama, etc. You can't conquer these things by yoga even. And in the scripture, the example given to prove this is Devashis. Devashis is a great yogi, but he's also always angry. He's always angry. And he can't check that anger by his yoga practice. Sometimes maybe he can restrain himself, but generally that anger always coming out in him. even in relation with Krishna and his devotees. We see that in the case of Ambarish. Ambarish Maharaj was a great Vaishnava king, and as the king, he wanted to do something for the good of his people. So he was observing some brata, fasting brata, so that the people of his kingdom, they would all get the benefit from that. And then it came that, as you know, I'm sure, that equally important as the brata itself is how you end the brata. That fasting has to be ended at a particular time, in a particular way, and so on. Otherwise, the whole thing is spoiled. So this was the coming to the end of his fast, the end of his vow, and time is approaching when he has to break his fast by taking something. And just at that time, Durvasa arrived at his court. And Durvasa, he doesn't travel alone. He travels with minimum 10,000 disciples. So the Durvasa turns up with 10,000 disciples, and Ambarish welcomes him and says, "Oh, I must, give some hospitality to you and your disciples. You please come and take something." And Durvasa said, "Yes, but first we'll go and take bath." Okay, so they go to the nearby river, but you can imagine 10,000 people taking baths going to take a little time, isn't it?
Yeah, but was the Vasa in Krishna's time?
Yes. So they're all gone to take their bath, and the time is coming that Ambarish has to break his fast. But he knows if he eats before he feeds his guests, that will also be an offense. So he consulted his Brahmin advisors. What should I do? And they all agreed that you can just sip water. And sipping water is simultaneously breaking the fast and not breaking the fast. So by sipping water, you'll still get the result for your people that you desired in following this vow, but you won't actually break the fast in as much as you're taking something before you feed your guests. So they all decided this is the best course of action, otherwise the whole thing will be spoiled. So at the proper time, Ambarish sipped one mouthful of water. And Durvasa, who is a master of mystic power, he immediately understood that Durvasa has broken his fast. And he became furious. Oh, he has broken his fast before feeding us, before giving up proper honor to us. And he became so angry that he summoned a fire demon and sent him, go and burn up that Ambarish, reduce him to ashes. And the fire demon came to Ambarish, and Ambarish was standing with folded palms, and he's thinking, yes, if I did some wrong, then maybe this is the proper thing. I deserve this. If I made some offense, and with his head bowed, he's waiting to accept his fate. But before the fire demon could devour him, the Sudarshan Chakra appeared. Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra appeared and forbid the demon to approach Ambarish. And then Durvasa came, and the Sudarshan began to chase him, to give punishment to him for wrongly persecuting Ambarish, who is a great Vaishnava. So Durvasa is a disciple of Mahadev, Shiva. So, and he has so much mystic power that he can go anywhere in the universe. So, feeling the heat of the Sudarshan on his back, he fled that place and came to the Kailash to beg for Lord Shiva to intervene.
Yeah, Prabhu, just one thing. Are you allowed to eat grain when you're fasting?
Not generally, and generally fasting means not taking anything. But some different types of fasting are allowed according to what the vrata is. In fact, today is Ekadashi, so today is a vrata for us. We're not taking any grain or pulse or anything like that.
But you
today.
can eat grain in some.
That depends on what the vow is. Depends on what the vow is. But generally, minimum is avoiding grains and pulses in that fasting kind of vrata. In any case, so Durvasa, he flees and comes to Kailash, bows down at the feet of Mahadev, Lord Shiva, says, please protect me from this Sudarshan Chakra who's pursuing me. And Mahadev said, oh, I'm very sorry, but that is not my weapon. That is Narayan's weapon. And I have no control over Narayan's weapon. If you want him to withdraw, you have to go into Narayan. And this is how powerful Durvasa is. He can go to Vaikuntha and stand before Lord Narayan. He has so much power.
That's the thing, isn't it? He can go to Vaikuntha, but he didn't realize that he hasn't broken really fast.
Yeah. No, because the red mist came down on him, the red mist of anger, and spoiled his judgment. He couldn't see anything because of his anger, and only wants to vent his anger on Ambarish. So then he goes to Vaikuntha, and Lord Narayan sees him. And Lord Narayan says to him, and he says, please withdraw your weapon. I'm in great danger, please. And Lord Narayan, he could understand the situation. He told him, oh, I can't withdraw him because he has come because you offended my devotee. Then he says, you think, it's a very famous dialogue between them. He says, you think because you're a sannyasi and he's a grihasta, that you're closer to me than he is. And you think that because you're a Brahmin and he's a Kshatriya, that you're closer to me than he is. But in both cases you're wrong, because he is my devotee and he is entirely pure, and he is closer to me than you. Then if you want the Sudarshan to withdraw, you have to go and beg his forgiveness. Then immediately Durvasa was again in front of Ambarish, and he bowed down before Ambarish and said, oh, please forgive me my offense, I didn't understand, I was overcome by anger, and you please ask the Sudarshan to withdraw. And Ambarish is saying, oh no, I'm the offender. It was me that did wrong. You're not to blame, Rishi, you're not to blame. And then there's a famous verse, and I'm sorry I don't remember the whole verse. Aho Ananta Dasanam is the first line. It means, today I have seen the glories of the devotees of the Ananta Dev. Because even I wanted to do harm to you, but you only wanted my best benefit. What I have to bear testimony to the greatness of the devotees of the Ananta Dev, Narayan. And the Sudarshan withdrew, and Durvasa was spared. But still, Ambarish was 100% filled with humility and tolerance, and in every way a perfect devotee of the Lord. And this example has been given in Srimad Bhagavatam. One of the examples is for us to understand that you cannot master anger by yoga. Anger can only be mastered by devotion. All of these things. Maybe you can apply some yogic technique for the time being, but still it doesn't remove the root of that. And that's described in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Krishna describes that very plainly there. What is the cause of anger? The cause of anger is thwarted desire. When you desire something, and someone comes to prevent you, or some circumstance comes that prevents you from getting that thing or what it is that you desire, then that reaction is that you become angry. So, and angry over such a small thing that he sipped one palm full of water, then what can we say? We can understand that by yoga, what is the use of that? In fact, I can say it's a little bit naughty, I suppose, for the class. But when I was younger, I used to practice yoga, believe it or not. And when I was living at the Soho Street Temple there for some time, myself and two other devotees, we used to go to the Shivananda Yoga Ashram to practice yoga. They taught, Shivananda is a proper yogi, and they teach yoga in a proper way. But I can tell you now that the yoga teacher, he was completely in love with himself, because he had that like yogi body, and he had the long hair, and he looked the part and everything. And I tell you, when we would attend there, that using that yoga, whatever it is, but his yoga status, he tried to seduce every single woman that was on his yoga course, and many he succeeded also. So and actually that's what we find. That's what we find today, that people who practice yoga, it's for some sensual reason. It's not for any spiritual reason. Generally, we find that. Very rare.
Was it a physical one, what you were doing?
Yeah, Hatha yoga, asanas.
One want to show on the Indian channel, I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, asanas and pranayam and all of that. They taught that there. But the teacher himself, fully under the control of lust.
And he was doing that in a temple.
Well, it wasn't a temple, but their center. And we know, Shivananda was a proper yogi. Not just what do you say, like the community center yogi, a serious yogi. But not all his followers were up to the mark, let's say.
But was it mixed or just ladies?
No, it was a mixed thing. It was a mixed thing.
And his attention was on the ladies.
Yeah, he was always helping them get the asana right, Anyway, this we understand. So this example's been given here. So, and this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam saying, the agitated mind repeatedly taken captive by its enemy in the form of depravity, rooted in lust and greed, is directly mastered by serving the Supreme Lord Mukunda. It can never be likewise checked or pacified by practicing the eightfold yogic discipline, which is generally based on sensual and mental repression, yama, niyama, etc. Here, Sri Narad Muni is saying, you yogis think that by the process of controlling the breath, you are getting peace of mind and also control over the senses. But it is only for the time being. Even if it continues for lives together, it is an artificial thing. It cannot have any permanent contribution. You think that control of lust and anger is everything, and that you will find a sort of peace within yourself, that you are the master of lust, anger and greed, karma, krodha, lobha, etc. But you cannot retain that position. This is a lower position, a lower peace, and it cannot be maintained permanently. You will have to fall down. It is temporary. Hatto mukha, controlled repeatedly. But mukunda sevaya jadvat samjati, the peace you attain from yoga practice cannot reach to the degree of peace that you will find in yourself by serving Mukunda. This yoga is the artificial means of checking this karma, krodha, etc. that disturb the mind and bring quick reaction. But the practice of controlling the breath, the pranavayu, by the practice of controlling the breath, the pranavayu, one can become a master of the senses, but it is temporary. In the narrative of Ajamil, we also find mention of the atonement of the elephant's bath. Kvachin nivartate bhadrat, kvachit chakrati tat puna, prayas chitam ato partam, manye kunjara shochavat. Sometimes a person refrains from sin, but in time he again commits the same kind of sin. Therefore I consider atonement in the line of karma kanda, or in the calculation of worldly deeds, to be as futile as an elephant's bath. The elephant is habituated to immediately rolling in the dust after taking a dip in the river. So I have done something sinful, and if I follow that by an opposite practice in atonement, karma prayaschita, the sin is absolved. But the next moment I will compulsively commit that same sin again. By jnana prayaschita, we may gain a somewhat more permanent abstention from the sinful activity. Tapasa brahmacharjena samayena cha damena cha tyagena satya sochabhyam yamena niyamena va deho vag buddhajan dira dharma gya shraddhayan vita kipyanti agahan mahadapi venu gulam ivan laha. Austerity, or one-pointed attention, exclusive celibacy, subjugation of the internal and external senses, charity, truthful speech, cleanliness, sensual discipline, yama, headed by non-violence, mental regulation, nijama, headed by regular utterance of or concentration on mantras. By the strength of such practices, faithful liberationists, jnanis, who know the mysteries of religion, drive away even the most grievous sins committed in thought, word, or deed, as bamboo clusters are destroyed by fire. The landscape may be clear for a whole year, but next year, with the coming of the rainy season, many shrubs will inevitably sprout again. But the type of purity we shall attain when coming in connection with the service of Vasudeva, Sri Krishna, is our eternal factor and peculiarly purest nature. We cannot hope to attain this by any other method than our submission to and acceptance of the service of the Lord Sri Krishna, reality the beautiful. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayanaha agaham dunvanti kartas astena niharam iva bhaskara. But most rarely, the devotee who is 100% absorbed in the service of Lord Vasudeva annihilates all sins at the root by his practice of exclusive devotion, which is indifferent to the above-mentioned practices of austerity, etc. As the sun completely destroys a mountain of snow, the exclusive devotees absorbed in the service of Vasudeva are also similarly able to totally uproot sin by the strength of their devotion. That is, even without exerting themselves. Such peace can never be found anywhere else. Our proper understanding and adjustment with the higher center will give us such peace and freedom from anxiety of all types that cannot be achieved by any artificial methods which are devoid of understanding of the highest center. Tapasvino danapara jashashvino manaspino mantra bidha sumangala ke manna vidanti vina jad arpanam tasmai subhadra sravase namo namaha. I offer my repeated obeisance unto the Supreme Lord, who is all famous as the Supreme Good. Without offering their actions unto him, neither the liberationists, jnanis, who are dedicated to austerity, nor the charitable worldly workers, karmis, or the world famous, nor the performers of the Ashvamedha sacrifice, nor the sages or yogis, nor persons dedicated to chanting mantras, nor persons of virtuous behavior, none of them can attain any auspiciousness in life. So all of those things, they cannot give you auspiciousness unless all of those things are offered for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Here in his inaugurating speech before delivering Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Shukadev Goswami says to the scholars, I know that in this assembly there are many scholars, yogis, tapasis of different types, but I present my case before you all. Tapasvino, there are many penance-making ascetics. Dhanapara, there are those who are famous for their big donations. Jashashvino, there may be many famous for their writings or their sacrifice. Manasvino, there are many great thinkers. Mantra bidha, there are those who are well versed in the application of the mystic words, and so on. But you must realize that none of them can be successful in life without surrendering to Krishna. Understanding with the highest central truth can give you your peaceful and harmonious life, and no partial attainment can conquer with such an acquisition. Concentration induced by drugs is artificial concentration. All contribution from the mundane cannot but be artificial and of lower nature. So why is Guru Maharaj mentioning that? Is because the general sadhus, they often think that by ingesting ganja, that helps in their meditation. So Guru Maharaj is addressing that is an artificial method. It will not give you that. And in fact, in Srila Guru Maharaj's words were, no amount of finite can ever give you the infinite. And he said, and ultimately, that, taking ganja for the help in the meditation, that will become the enemy of your faith. That was Srila Guru Maharaj's words on that. All contributions from the mundane cannot but be artificial and of a lower nature. In other words, this is fossil fatherism. The fossil has created God. From the fossil conception, God consciousness has come. The fossil is supposed to evolve to the human species, and the God conception grows in the human section. So the fossil is the cause to produce God conception. Fossil is the father of God. So to think that mundane intoxication can give birth to the happy ecstasy of the conception of the absolute beauty and sweetness, this is atheism. Now, Guru Maharaj, just in case you're confused, Guru Maharaj is explaining that this is the thinking of the materialist. That the fossil has, from the fossil, man has evolved, and in man's desperation, he's conceived of this entity, godlike or God entity that that we can turn to for helping us in our time of need, or so on, or to fulfill our necessity for to worship something more than ourselves. But Guru Maharaj says this is atheism. Although consciousness is subtle, it is more durable than the fossils of the mundane. We must not be afraid of transforming or dying. We should welcome the death of our ego. Die to live. If our motivation comes from the proper source, we shall also know the troubles we face as not mere renunciation. We must not accept only trouble, but we have to fulfill his purpose. The inner sacrifice is more necessary than the external sacrifice. So, Jukta Vairagya, abnegation in the spirit of devotion, has been recommended to be the most useful. Physical affliction is not our aim and object. Our object is to satisfy him, and thus, whatever policy may be considered best for us will be recommended from there. We have to accept wholesale surrender to the higher agency. That is necessary. If we are allowed to consider our own case, we shall have to accept Jukta Vairagya, because privation or affliction is not our end. Our end is to satisfy Krishna. The fire lit by our Guru Maharaj must be allowed to burn. We must not keep a feeble fire. The idea that Gurudev has given us is very rarely found in this world. Out of thousands and millions of chances, we may have such a seed sown in our heart. Manushyanam sahasresu kaschid jatati siddhaye. Jatat mam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvataha. Out of countless souls, some have reached the human form of life, and among many thousands of human beings, some endeavor to attain direct perception of the individual soul and the supersoul. And amongst many thousands of such aspirants who have attained to seeing the soul and the supersoul, only a few receive actual perception of me, Shyamasundar. Brahmananda Brahmite Kona Bhagavana Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. According to the thread of their karma, the living beings are wandering throughout many species of life in the universe. Among all such wandering souls, one for whom the fortune of spiritual merit, Sukriti, has arisen, by which devotion is facilitated, gains the seed of the creeper of devotion by the grace of Guru and Krishna. That seed is good faith or Shraddha. It is not a light thing. We must know that this seed of Krishna consciousness is the most valuable thing in the whole of creation. Everything, good or bad, belongs to Krishna, and I am his unconditional servitor. Our general thought must be like this, and the details will develop gradually. We need not apprehend any injustice. He is the absolute good. So his mercy is absolute. His love is absolute. He is the loving center. We must make our heart broad, wide, to accept such a seed. Love is the widest thing. Love can accommodate even the enemy. Love is not afraid of any sacrifice, so it can accommodate even the enemy, and he is thereby conquered. Such conquering is complete and perfect. Our conquest is not perfect, but love's conquest is perfect. So we must be prepared to pay the value of this greatest achievement. Die to live. What can I give? Everything belongs to him, and I also belong to him. I must admit that I am his. This much is necessary. This is the central knowledge, and it is not unreasonable. I am not out of central control, and he is the all-controlling potency. And that is not power, but love. This is the most liberal proposal, good news and fortune. Suspicion and hesitation are the worst enemies. We may be near to the truth, but because of our previous karma, our suspecting nature deceives us. In Sri Gita it is mentioned, Sang Sayatma Vinashyati. The suspicious are doomed. We had one god brother of ours, he's my friend, so I won't tell his name, but he gave some land to Guru Maharaj in Navadvip that he'd purchased there. And then Guru Maharaj in turn, not gifted it, but told one of his disciples, one sannyasi of his, you can stay there, you can stay on that land and make some place for yourself there like that. So then that devotee was there, but the devotee who gave that land in the first place, he didn't like that particular sannyasi. So he made some objection to Guru Maharaj. Oh, I gave you this land and you've given it to him. Like, why have you given it to him? And Guru Maharaj's reaction to him was, your suspicion has caused your suspension. Because you have come with this like suspicious attitude, then your progress is now suspended by that. So another time, a different god brother, also good devotee, who Guru Maharaj said, like in India, it's not, maybe now it's still the same, I don't know, but at least when in the 1980s, when I was there a lot, then in Bengal at least, in Navadvip, every day you'd have load shedding. It means there's too much demand on the grid for electricity. So they do load shedding and you'd be like 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours with no power. And then it'd come back on. So because of that, Guru Maharaj told, for the temple, I want a petrol generator. A lot of people have those. And that supplies energy, electricity when the load shedding comes. So this devotee, he collected money for a generator, a petrol generator, and he gave the money to Guru Maharaj. And then maybe 6 months or a year later, he came back, no generator. Then he said to Guru Maharaj, I gave you money for that generator and you didn't buy a generator. And Guru Maharaj said, no, I used the money for something else. And that devotee was like, he was kind of a bit disgruntled. I gave that money for the generator, And Guru Maharaj says, you want to say no taxation without representation. That's what you want to say to me, is it? And I thought, maybe I'm wrong. And Guru Maharaj said, no, if I say I need some money and you give to me something, you are my disciple. Then if you give that to me, your duty's finished there. What I do with the money is not your business. Your duty finishes there. And I needed to use that money for something else. I don't need to justify that to you. But I remember later on, one devotee, he came here to the temple and he gave me a donation of some money, like a quite substantial donation, and he said, what will you use the money for? He asked me, what will you use the money for? And like an idiot, I said, your duty is finished. When you give the money, that I do not need to say what. And he said, no, it is my business what you're going to do with that money. And afterwards I thought, yeah, he's right, because I'm not Guru Maharaj. And Guru Maharaj can say that, but if someone gives me money for the service of Guru Maharaj, I have to be completely transparent with that. Yeah, this is what I used it for. I didn't, or otherwise someone may think maybe he went on a holiday to Barbados with a couple of girlfriends or something.
Yeah, because people want to know. Like,
Of course.
they never give anyone donation. They say, what you
Yeah.
use it for.
So, and so I had to apologize to him. Yes, you're right. And, you know, we do need to be, if some people give us with their good faith money for the service of the temple, for the service of Guru Maharaj, for the service of the deity, we have to be accountable for that. We have to be able to show this is what we use that money for. And when people see that, then they want to give more. But if we're all secretive and we're trying to hide those things, then people will be suspicious. Oh, we gave you that money, but we don't see that you used it for anything. Are you building up a little bank account for yourself? So yeah, we have to be. Guru Maharaj would say you have to cut your coat according to your cloth. So for me to foolishly just imitate Guru Maharaj, your duty is finished. When you give it to me, no, I am not Guru Maharaj. If I'm given something for the service of Guru Maharaj, I have to show that it was used for the service of Guru Maharaj. Otherwise, I am not fit for that. So, Guru Maharaj is speaking about love. Suspicion and hesitation are the worst enemies. We may be near the truth, but because of our previous karma, our suspecting nature deceives us. We're thinking, Guru Maharaj would say that sometimes. Don't think that if you jump in the name of Krishna, it means a leap of faith. You take a leap of faith into the unknown. So don't think that you're going to be led down a dark path and stabbed in the back. You shouldn't have that kind of apprehension. That I'm jumping into the infinite and Krishna will protect me. Krishna will catch me. That should be our faith. We are not jumping into some hazardous dark position, but rather we are jumping into the arms of Lord Krishna. Then it must be good. Cannot but be good. Even if it may not be what we expect, it will only be good. Die to live. What can I give? Everything belongs to him, and I also belong to him. I must admit that I am his. This much is necessary. This is the central knowledge, and it is not unreasonable. I am not out of the central control, and his all-controlling potency is not power, but love. This is the most liberal proposal, good news and fortune. In Sri Gita it is mentioned, Sam Jatma Binashyati. The suspicious are doomed. Time is valuable, but it is passing in mere hesitation. If a general is sent to the battlefield and he harbors a suspicious mentality, what can he attain? Nothing. He will put all his soldiers into the jaws of the enemy general. But he should have a definite plan and engage with proper intensity to fight with Maya. And Maya is willing. The enemy is willing. One should feel his personal deficiency and fight for the center. And supplies and fortifications must be had from the highest and most special department, Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu and Shastra, with the help of the saints and the scriptures, we must subdue the enemy within us and within our house. The worst part of the problem is that the enemy is not without, but within. And we must get help from without. The most intimate friends of the Krishna world, they are our real friends. We are troubled by our enemies, lust, anger, greed, etc., karma, krodha, lobha, etc. And doubt or suspicion is also our enemy. There is also insanity, illusion, and hatred. Mada Moha Matsarja. Hesitation comes out of ignorance or moha. Pranistito pi nargunye uttama shloka lilaya. Grihita chetta rajashre akyanam jad aditavam. Shukadev Goswami explained to Maharaj Parikshit and all the topmost assembled sages, this illusory world is full of variety and movement, and above it is the Brahman, the non-differentiated plane of the Absolute. But on the other side, there is again a differentiated and specified world, the Adhokshaja world, beyond sensual perception. This Brahman is not the ultimate existence, but crossing Brahman on the other side, there is an Adhokshaja world. There we find Krishna Lila, which is not a thing of this mundane world. You all know I have no charm for the world whatsoever, and my mind was attracted by the charm of that higher Lila. Today I shall speak to you all about that Lila, or the divine pastimes. The king and the sages had to give their undivided attention. What does he say? This young boy, over 16 years of age, doesn't even care to use any clothing. He goes naked. He feels no excitement, and he is constantly engaged in the Brahman conception. And he says that there is another world on the other side of this Brahman, and Krishna Lila is the wealth of that side. They could not but give their audience attentively. And what does he say? How does he know? And what is the nature of that Leela he speaks about? They became more and more attentive to hear. Sometimes musicians think that music will create disturbance in the stage of Brahman. But in the highest stage, we are told, there are musical instruments such as the flute, veena, and many others. There are expert musicians there, but they are already fully established in satisfying Krishna's senses, doing nothing for their own. Otherwise, music captures and attracts our minds towards this material plane. The element must be spiritual, all service. Krishna Lila springs up from the land of dedication, and the imitation is the land of exploitation. And midway is the Brahman, the land of cessation. Sever everything. Sevan mukhi jivadho swayam eva sparachada. When the Lord's transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes are spiritually served with all our faculties, he personally makes his gracious appearance within our spiritual senses. We must be very attentive to the tests that face us in service. No deception can stand there. Ata eva karma preme bahuta antara. Karma andatatma prema nirmala bhaskara. There is a gulf of difference between lust and love. Lust is dense darkness, and love is the brightest sun. Karma preme deko bhai, lakshanete bhedanoi, tabu karma prema nohi hai. My brother, lust and love appear as one and the same, yet lust is never love. Karma manksha maya karma. Lust is only concerned with the flesh and blood, but prema is the chid ananda dham, the abode of consciousness and blissfulness. There is no question of perceiving it through the mundane senses. Our ideal must be pure, and we must strive for that. We may be in a lower position, but if the ideal is clearly before us, that will help us in our real improvement of life. A man who possesses the true ideal is a real capitalist in gaining a better position. Jato shrado matkatasu nirbina sarvakarmashu veda dukatmakam kamam patiyagye pyanishvaraha. A person who has developed faith in narrations of my divine nature and pastimes, may still for some time suffer the reactions to his worldly deeds, karma, although he perceives his addiction to worldly pleasures to be the essence of his misery, he is unable to abandon them. He knows what is good and what is bad, but he can't help himself from falling into the clutches of the mundane senses. Still he will repent. Bhume skalita padanam bhumir eva valambanam twayi jata paradanam tvam eva sharanam Prabhu. This is from the Skanda Purana. For those who have stumbled and fallen upon the earth, the very ground is the only support by which they can arise once again. Likewise, for those who have offended you, O Lord, you alone are their only refuge. In the beginning, when a child tries to walk, he falls down, but he gets up and tries again. In this way we must proceed, but we must not stoop to deceive others. That is Maya, deception. To deceive our own self and others is only to live in the world of deception. Such persons are deceiving themselves and the environment also. Those who can conquer their partiality and prejudices can stand amongst the most qualified. The eye to detect our disqualification is our real wealth, and we are given the eye to see by the grace of our Gurudev. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakkuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I worship my Guru, who has opened my eyes that were blinded with the darkness of ignorance, by adorning them with the collyrium of knowledge. Most important is the eye to see what is good, what is bad, and then to accept and reject. First, the eye is necessary. Then there is justice, and above that, there is mercy. Justice is the standard, but above that we can conceive that there is an area, also a land of mercy, compassion, grace. With our faith and earnestness, we can aspire after that mercy. If we increase the quality of our negativity or the feeling that we are mean, the positive will be automatically attracted. Try to increase the power of your position as a negative unit, trinadapi sunichena, by feeling oneself lower than the grass. Doinyam, humility, atmanivedanam, surrender. Hankering in surrender is our wealth. We are Shakti, the potency, and the potency refers to the negative unit of the positive, the potent. Increase your negative side, your hankering. The positive will automatically be attracted to you. In the impartial judgment, tatasta bichar, we must find that the more humility, dainyam, we possess, the more devotion and intimacy we possess. Health depends on hunger. The more one feels hunger, the better his health may be. That is real, natural hunger. It is something like that. And humility is to feel, I am the lowest. So in this comparison, the more one has realized the infinite, the more he thinks, I am lowest. Jadi gora nahata, tabbe ki hoita, hemane doritam de. In the pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, one of the principal gopis of Srimati Radharani, one of the Astasakis of Vrindavan, came here as Vasudev Ghosh. In appreciation of Mahaprabhu's descent here, he says, how could I keep up my life if Gauranga Mahaprabhu had not come? If I did not come in touch with Gauranga Mahaprabhu, how could I live at all? This is so near to life, so near to vitality. It is the vitality of the vitality. If I had come in touch with such a potent vitality, if I had not come in touch with such a potent vitality, I should have been finished. In this way, our intimacy may accommodate Sriman Mahaprabhu, Vasudev Ghosh said, I could not live at all if such nectar had not been extended unto me. It would have been completely impossible to go on with my life. Once when Guru Maharaj was translating this verse of Vasudev Ghosh, he said, if Gauranga Mahaprabhu had not appeared, then it would have been better if I died before I was born. Oh, that's the end. So, very deep thoughts from Guru Maharaj. And die to live. Some of our godbrother, or one of our godbrothers, he had that made as a tattoo. Die to live. But it is not just meant to be a tattoo or a bumper sticker. It is meant to be something that we should consider very deeply. Actually, it's a proclamation of Hegel, the German philosopher Hegel. And Guru Maharaj liked that very much, this idea, die to live. So to be able to live in that world, what you are in this world has to die. It doesn't mean physical death. It means death of the ego. Srila Govinda Maharaj would say to us that the only thing that prevents us from seeing the smiling face of Krishna is our ego. And our ego is like a Himalayan mountain range of ego. Not a small ego, a huge ego that we all have. But it is a false ego. Ego, it means identity. It's a Greek word, identity. It means who you are. But now our ego is a false ego. We're thinking we're, this flesh and bone, and we look in the mirror, we think that's us. We're all of the ideas that we have in our consciousness, all the acquired misconceptions, acquired prejudices, all of these things that we have. We think that all of that makes up who we are. We think that's us. And Saraswat Thakur said, especially when one is over 40, it's very difficult to change their mentality, or to be able to convince them of something new, you can say. An old dog can't learn new tricks. But we hope that's not an absolute truth. But we understand that, that by the time you've reached that, you're thinking that this is you, and you're fully committed to that conception of yourself. But it isn't true. It isn't who you are. And that false identity, that false ego, that has to die, so that the real ego can emerge. And how is that possible? Only by grace, actually. We will have to practice humility, tolerance, and giving honor to others, and not expecting any honor for ourselves. This is Mahaprabhu's instruction to us. It is not mundane or peripheral. It is essential, what Mahaprabhu has told us. In fact, of the 8 verses of Shikastakam that Mahaprabhu left, this is the 3rd verse, and for us it is the most important. And Srila Gurudev, he was like the personification of that. And he told us on his first world tour, when he came here to London, he said, what will I say to the devotees when I come there? And they are, by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, they're already enlightened with Krishna consciousness. They all know what is Krishna consciousness. But, he said, but my observation is that, devotees have been chanting Harinam for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years or more, but no one getting the result. No one actually getting Krishna Prema. And why? So there can only be two possible reasons. One is that it's just all nonsense, you know. There's just some cheating thing. And he said, and if it were just some cheating thing, I would have left it a long time ago. He said, because maybe I can't do any good for you, but at least I won't do anything bad for you. You know, inciting you to waste your time with something. He said, but the saints and the scriptures have proven that it's real, that there is something sublime in the chanting of Krishna's name. Then the only other reason why we're not getting the result, the proper result, is we must be doing it wrong. There must be some defect in our chanting. Otherwise, we should be getting that result. Krishna Prema should be the result of that. So then he said, I thought deeply, and I'm thinking that this is the reason, that we are not getting the proper result because we are not humble, we are not tolerant, we are unable to properly honor others, and we covet all kinds of honor and respect for ourselves. So this, he said, and we saw that from his first time to his last days, this was his preaching. Humility, tolerance, giving honor to others. He'd say, this is our real sadhana. And if you don't follow these directives of Mahaprabhu, you can chant until kingdom come, but you won't get the result. You'll only get the result if you apply this. And this is, in the verse it says, those who can be tolerant. What kind of tolerant? Like the tree, who can be humble, like the grass, and who can give honor to others and not covet any honor for themselves. They are qualified to chant the holy name of Krishna. So the Shuddhanam, the pure name of Krishna, will only rise in the heart of a devotee who is fully tolerant, humble, and able to honor others. So this is our sadhana. This is the thing that we have to practice. We have to consider, what in every circumstance that comes in my front, how will I react to this with humility? How will I react to this with tolerance? And how will I be able to honor all and not expect any honor from myself in this circumstance? And it is something that, not just once, but always, we have to practice this. And it has to be genuine also. Because especially humility, people can fake humility. Oh, I am so full and you're so great. But we don't want that kind of fake humility. It has to be real. Srila Guru Maharaj, when he is speaking about this, he said, outside the ISKCON Chandrodaya Mandir, he said it came to my attention that Muslims came there and they killed a cow in front of the temple there. and you can imagine a big mob came and it was like a big fight going on there. And then one of the devotees from the temple came out with a shotgun and fired the gun in the air, and like everybody ran then, like dispersed everybody. And someone came to complain to Guru Maharaj. Oh, how is that being humble? How is that being tolerant and giving honor to come with a gun, shotgun? Is this following Mahaprabhu's diktat? Is that following Mahaprabhu's advice? Is this Trinadapi Sunichana? And Guru Maharaj said, yes. Yes, it is Trinadapi Sunichana. We support them. We support them. It is not that we should be humble to the gundas, humble to the mob in the street. We should be humble to Guru and Vaishnava. Said so. Yes, he said to that man, if someone comes to kill your father, will you say yes? Very good. Please, you go ahead and do that. I'll be humble. I'll be tolerant. You go on. No, you'll stand in front, won't you? You'll say, no, you'll not do any harm to my father. You have to get through me first. This is actual humility. When Hanuman burnt down the city of Lanka, that was not arrogance, that was humility. Humility to Ram, humility to the truth. So we have to, Guru Maharaj would say, religion means proper adjustment. So you have to adjust your understanding according to the circumstance. It's not just being, meek, but rather we should be strong if necessary. That real humility means, yes, if necessary, I can be sacrificed. But I will not let anyone to do any harm to this temple or to these devotees or like that. That is real humility. Not just a show of meekness. In fact, Srila Prabhupada once said, or maybe more than once, but said, too much humility is the sign of a thief. So, you have to be careful. They're showing very humble, but all the time they're making some plan to rob you or rob the temple. We've seen it. We actually have some experience of it too. But this is the key. Srila Guru Maharaj said is like the trade secret to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is this verse of Mahaprabhu's Trunada Pitu Nichena. To follow that humility, tolerance, giving honor to others, and not expecting any honor or respect for yourself. It's not easy. It's easy to say it, but it's not easy to do that. Because of our ego, we're not humble. We think we're important, and we think that people should honor us and respect us. And, we see that, the general people then sometimes say, are you disrespecting me? You're disrespecting my family. We see this kind of... But no, a Vaishnava doesn't do that. And in fact, Guru Maharaj said, a Vaishnava doesn't make much defense for himself. If somebody comes to abuse him, yes. When they wanted to abuse Guru Maharaj, someone came and they said, they're telling this about you and this about you and this about you. And Guru Maharaj said, only that? They don't really know all the really bad stuff. They only know that. That's nothing. If they really knew, then they can say. So, this is genuine. When Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, in the beginning of Chaitanya's Charitamrita, he says, I am more sinful than Jagai and Madai. I'm lower than the worm in stool. If anyone says my name, all of their piety will run away from them. Then Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj, he asked Guru Maharaj, so we know that, Kaviraj Goswami's, this is his expression, but we know he's not that. We know he's not, lower than the worm in stool, all of those things that he said. We know that that's not true. Guru Maharaj said, do you think he's just posing? Well, that's what people expect of me, because if I want to show my humility, I should make some kind of statement like that. No. Guru Maharaj said, no, that's his actual feeling. And of course it's his actual feeling, but we understand him as our Param Guru, he's the Guru of our Sampradaya. Then we cannot accept that. Srila Govinda Maharaj used to say, when people would speak with him, often we would hear him say, I am a fallen soul, Prabhu, I am a fallen soul. And then one day he said to us, I have to stop saying that, because otherwise my disciples will say, my Gurudev's a fallen soul. He told us. So he said, I have to stop saying that. But that was his actual feeling. And so when Goswami Maharaj said, yes, Maharaj, I understand that that's genuinely his feeling. But what if you are that? What if you actually are that? He said, like me. What if I... And Guru Maharaj said, such feelings are coming in you. And he said, no, Maharaj, but I know that I am that. Such feelings are coming in you. You see, so that has to be genuine. It's like we can argue, okay, Kaviraj Goswami is not those things, but we are those things. But still, the admission of that is good for us. The admission of that is healthy in us. We should never think ourselves to be, like superior to anybody. But only by, they say, there but by the grace of God go I. So if we have anything in our life, it's only by the grace of the Lord and the Guru and Vaishnavas that we have that. It's not of our own doing, not our own property. But still, how to deal with that ego that we have. What are we going to do with that? We have to try sincerely to practice to be humble. What they say, fake it till you make it, or something like that. But not faking it just to make a show, but practice it. Try to take the humble position. Try to be tolerant. Once I asked Gurudev when I was returning to London, do you have any advice or any instruction for the devotees in London? Gurudev thought for a moment and he said, yes, tell them that they have to tolerate everything until it becomes intolerable. And then they also have to tolerate that. So, and Gurudev would say, by tolerance you get everything. By tolerance. So we see that, we see that often religious people are tortured, persecuted for their belief. But that makes them stronger by their tolerance. Haridas Thakur was whipped in 22 marketplaces because he wouldn't give up chanting Harinam. The Qazi, promoted by the Smartas, said, he's a Muslim, he shouldn't be practicing Hindu Dharma, he should practice his own Dharma. And he said, okay, then bring him. And he said, you have to practice your Muslim Dharma, not Hindu Dharma. Why you are chanting Harinam? And he said, and if you will not give it up, we will have to kill you and make an example of you. And Haridas said, yes, you can kill me, but I cannot give up the chanting of Krishna's holy name. And so that's what they did, right? They sent him, dragged him through 22 marketplaces where he was whipped in public sight of everyone. And then lastly, the whipping men, the men who were doing that, they're crying. And they're saying to Haridas, not crying because they feel bad about what they're doing. They're crying, and Haridas said, why are you crying? He said, because you won't die. You won't die. And if we go back to the Kashi and tell him that you're not dead, then he's going to kill us. Then Haridas said, okay, I can die. So they carried on their whipping and so on until he died. And then the instruction was, you throw his body in the river. Because if, they say if a Muslim doesn't get proper burial, he can't go to heaven. So throw his body in the river. Don't give him any burial, just throw his body in the river. So they threw Haridas's body in the river, and then maybe 5 miles down the river, he got out and went on his way. He didn't pretend to be dead. He was dead, but only for the time being. And went to be with Mahaprabhu in Puri. So that's, humility and tolerance we see in Haridas. You can kill me, that's okay, but I cannot give up chanting Krishna's name. That will help us. Not that we should, try to imitate him, but we should try to understand what kind of tolerance he accepted, what kind of humility he had. We can pray for that. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he also says, Bhukti Mukti Pishachiya. These two manias in this material world, Bhukti and Mukti. Bhukti means enjoyment, enjoying the world, Then that's called Bhukti. And Mukti means the desire for liberation. So, and Pishachiya means like a witch or a ghost or a wicked evil spirit, and then Bhaktivinoda says, as long as these two witches live in your heart, the desire to enjoy the world or the desire to renounce the world, then bhakti will not live there. Have to free your heart from these two shadows, these two demons. Then bhakti you can invite bhakti to come and live on the throne of your heart. To give up the desire. Srila Gurudev would say, this life is not for enjoying. This life is for serving Hari, Guru and Vaishnava. And I heard Srila Prabhupada on one tape I was listening to recently, and he said, so many lives you have passed trying to make yourself happy, trying to enjoy this material world. My prayer to you is, just this one life you give to Krishna. Just try to give this one life to Krishna. And so earnestly he's saying that. But who amongst us will actually take that to heart? That I must try to give my life, my whole life, to the service of Krishna. And only that actually will give us our desired result. If we sincerely try. I'm finished with the trying to enjoy in this material world, because it's always a disappointment. Everything in this material world is always disappointing. Finally, we think it's great when it starts off, and then you get bored with it, and then it becomes a big disappointment. We've tried lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to satisfy ourselves without Krishna. And, how's that gone for everyone? We're still here suffering in this material world. Now we should try as best we can. And of course we're all fallen jivas. We can't just say, yes, I'm going to give my life to Krishna. But we can try. We can try to give our life. Bit by bit, a little bit at a time, a little bit more every day. Let me try to do that. Gurudev used to say that once a year, the Muslims, they have this thing called the Saltamani. That means where they make a check and balance of their life. What have I done good? What have I done bad? Like this kind of thing. He said, every day we should do this Saltamani. How much today did I serve Krishna and the Vaishnavas? How much today did I try to serve myself and try to enjoy this material world? How much today was I wicked and lazy? Or how much did I try to serve Krishna and his devotees? We don't need to immediately be perfect, but we should make a vow that every day I shall try to move a little more towards my Lord Krishna. And he will help us. He will help us if we are sincere. But if we are serious about this chanting of the holy name, we must take it seriously, the practice of humility, tolerance, and honoring all without expecting honor for ourselves. We must do that. Otherwise it'll just be a hollow show. It's not that Krishna is obliged that if you chant 16 rounds every day and follow the 4 religious principles, he must give you entrance into Goloka Vrindavan. If your heart is still full of separate interests, why will he give that? No, we have to try to give ourselves in our chanting. We have to try to give ourselves to Krishna. Be serious about it. It's not just a mechanical process. To try for that. So, this is our talk for today. We can discuss more, and always more. We should be eager to discuss these things, because that's the life of devotion, is to try to surrender to the Lord. That is Sharanagati. We must try to develop Sharanagati. If we don't know what Sharanagati is, we should try to cultivate the knowledge of Sharanagati. Guru Maharaj would say, proper realization comes after proper conceptualization. So you have to have the proper conception first, and then real realization will come to you as a matter of course if you are sincere. So we can stop our talk today. We are very grateful to Srila Madhusudan Maharaj, who was here earlier with us. He's actually here still. He's upstairs, but he has. He's been on Zoom conference since 1 o'clock, first with Latvia and then with Kiev, and he's probably still doing that now. So, but anyway, I'm sure he'll join us for prasadam and to meet with the devotees this afternoon. And we can do arti now. We're ready for arti now. Jam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswat Thakur Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bhagya Ki Jai. Sri Guru Gauranga Radha Shama Sundar Ki Jai. Sri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari